The evening had grown quiet inside the large hotel suite. Golden light from the lamps cast soft shadows across the carpet, and the city outside hummed faintly in the distance. Keanu Reeves sat at the edge of the couch, exhausted from a day filled with meetings, photo sessions, and endless voices pulling him in different directions. Yet despite the noise of fame and the constant spotlight, he found himself watching the quiet corners of life with more attention than the busy center. He noticed her for the first time that morning. The cleaning lady Maria had come into the suite with a shy smile and careful steps. She looked older than her years, her back slightly bent, her hands worn from long hours of work. Yet she carried herself with quiet dignity, following close. Behind her was a small girl, perhaps 11 or 12, holding a school notebook pressed tightly against her chest. Maria had apologized quickly, explaining that she couldn't leave her daughter alone at home, so she sometimes brought her when the shifts grew long. Keanu had smiled kindly and told her it was fine. The girl said nothing, only lowered her eyes, and sat quietly in the corner as her mother worked. But something in the way she clutched her notebook, as if it were her most valuable treasure, stayed in his mind. That night, as Maria finished tidying the room and prepared to leave, Keanu noticed the girl once again. She looked tired, her eyes heavy as though sleep had become a stranger to her. When Maria stepped out to collect extra towels, the girl opened her notebook just slightly. Keanu caught a glimpse of sketches and side drawings of buildings, gardens, and places that looked like they belonged in dreams. They were not childish scribbles. They were detailed, full of imagination. But as soon as she realized he was looking, she shut the book quickly, her face burning with embarrassment. "They're beautiful," Keanu said gently. The girl shook her head, whispering, "No, they're not good. They're just for me." Before he could answer, Maria returned, and the moment slipped away. Soon after, they left the suite, the girl walking close to her mother, clutching the notebook once more. Later that night, Keanu lay in bed but could not sleep. His mind replayed the girl's quiet face, the drawings hidden like secrets, the weight in her small shoulders. He wondered about her life, about Maria working long hours just to keep a roof over their heads, about the girl's dreams scribbled in pencil that no one else had seen. The next day, Maria returned to clean again. This time, Keanu pretended to be asleep on the couch as they entered. He wanted to see without the filter of his presence, to observe what the girl did when she thought no one was watching. At first, she sat quietly, just as before, but soon, when Maria was busy in the bathroom, the girl opened her notebook again. She glanced at Keanu, making sure he was asleep, then bent over the pages, her pencil moving quickly. Her drawings were alive. She sketched the room with detail, capturing the shadows, the folds of the curtains, the curve of the lamp. But then she added more. She transformed the ordinary into something magical, turning the lamp into a glowing tree, the couch into a small mountain, the window into a gateway to the stars. Keanu fought the urge to smile, keeping his eyes closed, his breath slow and steady. The girl was lost in her world, and for the first time saw the spark of raw talent. But then he heard her whisper to herself. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. "One day, maybe someone will see." His heart tightened, did not know. He was listening, but her words carried a weight. No child should carry the longing to be noticed, the fear of being invisible. Maria's voice called out from the bathroom. The girl quickly shut her notebook again, her face returning to quiet silence. Keanu kept pretending to sleep, but inside a storm had begun to grow. He realized this was not a coincidence. Life had placed him in this moment for a reason, and though he did not yet know how, he felt certain that this small girl with a worn notebook and tired eyes was about to change his life just as much as he could change hers. And deep inside, he knew this story was only beginning. The next morning, Keanu sat quietly at the hotel breakfast table, a cup of coffee untouched before him. His thoughts were not on the schedule ahead, but on the girl with the notebook. Her whispered words still echoed in his mind. One day, maybe someone will see. He felt the weight of those words, the longing behind them, the hidden dream of a child who feared being invisible. When Maria came in later to clean the suite, the girl walked beside her again, her notebook clutched tightly against her chest as always. Keanu greeted them warmly. Maria smiled nervously, as she always did, or her daughter might be in the way. "It's all right," Keanu reassured her gently. "She doesn't bother me at all." The girl lowered her eyes, but said nothing. Hush. Keanu noticed how quiet she was, how carefully she tried to make herself small, as if afraid to take up space. When Maria went to fetch fresh linens, Keanu turned to the girl. "May I see your notebook?" he asked softly. Her eyes widened in shock. She hugged the book tighter. "It's not good," she whispered. "It's just drawings. They don't mean anything." Keanu's voice was calm, patient. "They mean something to you, and that makes them important. Sometimes the things we think are small are the things that show who we really are." Hesitation filled her face, but slowly, with trembling hands, she placed the notebook on the table. Keanu opened it carefully, as if holding something precious. Page after page revealed drawings that seemed to breathe with imagination, houses that looked like they belonged in fairy tales, gardens blooming with impossible flowers, cities that rose like dreams against the sky. Keanu turned the pages slowly, his chest tightening with every detail. This was not just talent. This was vision. "These are beautiful," he said quietly. "You have a gift." The girl shook her head quickly, her voice barely a whisper. "No. People laugh. At school, they say it's silly. They say I'll never be anything." Her words pierced him. He saw the shame in her eyes. It's the way the world had already tried to break her spirit before she had even begun. He leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. "Listen to me. What you carry in these pages is not silly. It's rare. It's yours. Don't ever let anyone make you believe it has no value. One day these drawings could open doors you can't even imagine." Her eyes filled with tears, though she tried to blink them away. "But no one believes me," she whispered. Keanu smiled gently. "Then believe yourself first. The world will follow." Maria returned just then, and the girl quickly shut her notebook, wiping her face. Keanu said nothing, respecting her secret. But inside, he made a silent promise to himself. He would not let this child's gift be buried by fear and neglect. Later that evening, when the hotel grew quiet, Keanu walked through the halls thinking about what he had seen. He remembered his own struggles, the years when he felt invisible, when his dreams seemed fragile against the weight of reality. He remembered what it meant to have no one believe in you. And he remembered the rare moments when a single kind word had kept him going. As he stood by the window overlooking the city, Keanu whispered to himself, "Maybe this is why I'm here. Maybe this is the reason." But deep inside, he knew helping her would not be simple. Dreams are fragile, and people who laugh at them are loud. If he chose to step into her world, it would mean facing more than just her fears. It would mean facing the forces that tried to crush her light every day. And he was ready, because something in her quiet strength had already touched him, and he knew this was only the beginning of a journey that would change them both. The following afternoon, Keanu returned to the suite after a long meeting. Maria was already there, quietly folding towels and dusting the shelves. Her daughter sat by the window, her notebook hidden in her lap, as if she was afraid anyone might notice. Keanu smiled at her gently. "Hello again," he said softly. The girl nodded but kept her eyes lowered, too shy to answer later. While Maria was busy in another room, Keanu approached the girl. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated before whispering, "Sophia." Keanu repeated the name with warmth as if it were something valuable. "Sophia, that's beautiful." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, but it faded quickly. Keanu noticed how quickly she guarded herself, as if hope was dangerous. "Sophia," he said carefully, "do you like school?" Her shoulders stiffened. She shook her head quickly. "No, I hate it." Keanu's brows furrowed. "Why?" Small fingers tightened around her notebook. "The kids laugh at me. They say I'm weird. They say I'll never be like them. Some of the teachers, they don't care. They just tell me to sit down and be quiet." Keanu felt his chest tighten. You could almost hear the cruel voices that must have followed her every day. He knew too well how words could leave scars deeper than wounds. "And what about your drawings?" he asked softly. Tears glistened in her eyes as she shook her head. "They call them stupid. They rip my papers. Sometimes I stopped showing anyone." Keanu knelt beside her, lowering his voice. "Sophia, listen to me. What they say is not the truth. When people see someone with a gift, sometimes they get jealous. Sometimes they are afraid. They try to tear you down. So you don't see how strong you really are. But you cannot let them decide who you are." Her eyes met his for a moment, filled with sadness, but also a flicker of hope. "But it hurts," she whispered. Keanu nodded slowly. "Yes, it hurts, and it's unfair. But every dream that is worth chasing will hurt before it shines. Your drawings, they are a light, and you must protect them, no matter what anyone says." Maria walked in just then, wiping her hands on a towel. She smiled faintly at her daughter. "She's always with that notebook," she said, with tired affection. "Sometimes I worry. Life is not easy. I don't want her to dream too much and then be broken." Keanu looked at Maria gently. "Dreams don't break people. Losing them does." Maria's eyes softened, but her shoulders sagged with the weight of years of struggle. She didn't argue, only gave a small nod and went back to work. Later that evening, Keanu pretended once more to rest on the couch while Maria and Sophia finished their chores. Again, Sophia thought he was asleep. She pulled out her notebook and began to draw quietly. But this time, Keanu noticed something different. She wasn't just drawing the room, she was drawing people. At first, he thought it was only shapes, but then he saw she had drawn her mother, bent over with cleaning supplies, her face tired but kind, and beside her, she had drawn him. Not as a famous actor, not in lights or on a screen, but sitting quietly at the piano she had imagined in. The corner of the room, the detail stopped his breath. She had captured something no camera could piece, and as he watched her pencil move, he realized something that made his chest heavy. Sophia wasn't just drawing dreams, she was drawing truths that no one else wanted to see. In that moment, Keanu knew she carried more than talent. She carried a voice, one that could speak without words, one that deserved to be heard. But he also knew the world was not kind to voices like hers. And if he didn't step forward soon, her light might be smothered before it ever had the chance to shine. He closed his eyes again, pretending to be asleep, but inside, he made a quiet promise. He would not let Sophia believe she was invisible. He would not let her give up her gift, and he understood, this was no accident. This meeting was meant to happen because sometimes fate whispers, not through grand moments, but through the quiet scratching of a pencil on paper. Asterisk the next morning. Keanu met Maria and Sophia in the hotel hallway before they began their work. Maria bowed her head politely, but Sophia clutched her notebook as always, her eyes darting away quickly. Keanu smiled warmly. "Sophia," he said gently, "I was thinking, would you show me one of your favorite drawings today? Just one?" It hesitated, her small hands tightening around the notebook. For a moment, Keanu thought she would refuse. But then, with great care, she opened the book to a page and held it out. It was a sketch of a city, but not like any real place. Towers rose like mountains, gardens floated above the streets, bridges curved like ribbons in the sky. It was a city that seemed alive, breathing with imagination. Keanu studied the page in silence, his heart swelling with awe. "This," he whispered, "is not just drawing, it's his vision." Maria sighed softly, setting down her cleaning supplies. She draws all the time. I tell her it is good, but I also remind her that life is hard. Dreams don't feed you. Work does. Keanu looked at Maria with kindness. "I understand. Sometimes a dream can open doors that work alone cannot." Maria's face softened, but her eyes carried the weight of years of sacrifice. "I just don't want her to suffer disappointment. I don't want her to hope too much." Sophia lowered her head, as if those words pressed her down. Keanu noticed and spoke quickly. "Hope is not weakness. It is strength. And Sophia has strength in her art." Sophia looked up at him then, her eyes wide, searching. No one had ever spoken of her drawings that way before. Later that day, when Maria stepped out to fetch supplies, Keanu sat with Sophia by the window. He asked her gently, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" Her voice was small, but her words came quickly, as if she had held them inside for too long. "I want to build houses, not just for rich people, but for everyone. I want them to be safe and beautiful. I want people to feel happy when they go home." Keanu's throat tightened. "That is a beautiful dream, Sophia, and it is not impossible. But to get there, you must keep drawing, keep learning, keep believing in yourself, even when others don't." Her lips trembled. "But what if I fail?" He smiled softly. "Then you stand up and try again. Failing is not the end. Giving up is." As she looked at him, a spark lit in her eyes. It was fragile, but it was there. That evening, Maria returned to the suite looking worried. "Sir," she said quietly, "you are kind, but I must ask. Please don't fill her head with dreams too big. I've seen the world crush hope before." Keanu placed a hand over his heart. "Maria, I am not filling her head. I am reminding her of what she already carries inside. Sometimes, all a child needs is one person to say, 'I believe in you.'" Maria's eyes welled with tears, turned away, unable to answer, but Sophia heard every word. And for the first time she whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear, "Thank you." The next day at school, however, everything changed. Sophia came back in the afternoon with her notebook, nearly torn. When Keanu saw her in the hallway, her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. He knelt beside her. "What happened?" She clutched the ruined notebook to her chest. "The kids, they found my drawings again. They ripped them," they said. "I'll never be anything. They laughed at me until the teacher told me to sit down." Keanu's heart burned with anger, but his voice stayed calm for her sake. "Sophia, listen to me. They can tear paper, but they cannot tear what is inside you. Your gift is not gone. It is here," he said, pointing gently to her heart, and then her hand's tears spilled, but she nodded slowly, as if clinging to his words. That night, when Keanu returned to his room, he sat in silence by the window. He realized the truth. Sophia did not just need encouragement. She needed protection, guidance, a chance to show the world what she carried. He whispered to himself, "If I walk away now, she may never believe again. I can't let that happen." And in that moment, Keanu decided he would not just comfort her, he would fight for her future. But he knew that choice would bring unexpected challenges. Because lifting someone's dream often means standing against those who want to crush it, and deep inside, he felt the storm beginning to rise. The next morning, Keanu sat in the hotel cafe, his coffee untouched. His mind was heavy with Sophia's tears from the day before. He remembered the torn pages, her small hands clutching them as though she could somehow keep her dream safe even in pieces. He knew that words of comfort were not enough anymore. She needed something bigger, proof that her gift mattered. When Maria and Sophia came to clean the suite later that day, Keanu greeted them warmly as always. Sophia tried to hide her ruined notebook, but Keanu noticed the way her shoulders slumped, her usual quietness even heavier. After Maria went into the other room, Keanu sat with Sophia by the window. "May I see your drawings?" he asked gently, her eyes filled with shame. "They're ruined," she whispered. "Then draw again," Keanu said softly. "Don't let them win. Every time they try to destroy your dream, you make it stronger. By starting again." Sophia hesitated, but then she slowly opened her notebook to a blank page. She picked up her pencil and began to draw. Her hand trembled at first, but as the lines formed, her confidence grew. Keanu watched in silence, amazed at how quickly her world came alive again on paper. When she finished, he looked at the sketch. It was of a small house with a garden, simple yet beautiful, every detail carefully drawn. He smiled. "This," he said firmly, "is worth protecting." That night, Keanu made a call to a close friend who worked in the art world. He explained about Sophia, about her drawings, her vision, and her struggle. His friend listened carefully, and finally said, "Bring me some of her sketches. If she truly has talent, I will see it." The next day, Keanu gently asked Sophia if she would allow him to take a few of her drawings. She looked frightened. What if they laugh? She whispered. Keanu knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. If they laugh, we ignore them. They see the world changes. But either way, you are not alone. I will stand beside you. Her eyes softened, and after a long silence, she tore out 3 pages from her notebook and handed them to him with trembling fingers. Only these, she said. Keanu promised to take care of them. Later that evening, Keanu's friend called back after seeing the sketches. His voice was full of awe. Keanu, this girl is not just talented, she has vision far beyond her age. You need to nurture this. Hope flickered in Keanu's heart. He knew now that Sophia's gift was not only real, but powerful. But things were not so simple. Word spread quickly in the hotel after someone saw Keanu carrying the drawings. Whispers began, some praising his kindness, others mocking the idea of a cleaning lady's daughter being special. Maria heard the whispers too. And when she returned to the suite that evening, her face was tense. Sir, she said firmly, I know you mean well, but please, don't raise her hopes too high. I cannot afford to see her broken. Keanu's voice was calm but strong. Maria, she is already broken every time people laugh at her. What she needs now is someone who believes. Let me help her, please. Maria's eyes filled with tears. She turned away, torn between fear and hope. She had carried the burden of survival so long that dreaming felt dangerous. Sophia, standing quietly by the door, whispered, Mama, I want to try. Just once. The room fell silent. Maria finally nodded, though her face was heavy with worry. All right, but if she is hurt, it will be on me. Keanu looked at her with steady eyes. No, he said softly, it will be on me. That night, Keanu sat in his room, staring at Sophia's sketches laid out on the table. The city outside was alive with lights, but all he saw was the fragile hope of a little girl who wanted her dream to be seen. He whispered to himself, Tomorrow, I take the first step. But deep inside, he also knew the world was not ready to accept Sophia easily. People would resist, they would doubt, they would mock. Yet he was prepared to face it all, because sometimes the smallest voice needs the strongest defender. And Keanu had already decided he would not let her fight alone. The next day. Keanu carried Sophia's sketches to his friend's small gallery. Across the city, the place was quiet, filled with paintings and drawings from artists who had once been unknown. His friend studied the pages for a long time, tracing the details with careful eyes. Finally, he looked at Keanu and said, This girl is not ordinary. Her vision is rare. If she keeps drawing, she can go far. But she needs to be encouraged, not hidden. Keanu felt a surge of hope. He asked if the sketches could be included in a small showcase the gallery was hosting that weekend. K's friend hesitated at first, but then agreed. People may question it, he warned, but sometimes talent must be seen before it is believed. When Keanu told Maria and Sophia, Maria's face grew pale. A gallery? She whispered, her hands trembling. We don't belong in places like that. Sophia's eyes widened. Her notebook clutched tightly. They'll laugh, she said softly. Keanu knelt down beside her, his voice steady. They may laugh, but when they see your drawings, their laughter will stop. You don't need everyone to believe, Sophia. You just need the courage to show them. On the evening of the showcase, the gallery filled with guests in elegant clothes. Maria stood nervously by the door, her hands twisting together while Sophia hid behind her, clutching her notebook. Keanu walked with them, calm and steady, guiding them inside. Sophia's sketches were displayed on one corner wall, 3 drawings pinned carefully, one glowing under soft lights. At first, people passed by without noticing. But then one guest stopped. He leaned closer, studying the details. Who drew this? He asked. A child, the gallery owner replied. She is only 12. The man's eyebrows rose. 12. Impossible. This has depth, imagination. It feels alive. to while buys. Whispers spread. Soon, a small crowd stood in front of Sophia's drawings. Their voices filled with surprise. Maria stared in disbelief, her eyes wet with tears. Sophia pressed herself closer to her mother, afraid to look. Keanu knelt beside her. "Listen," he whispered. "They are not laughing. They're seeing you." Sophia slowly lifted her head. Her wide eyes watched as strangers admired her work. One woman even wiped a tear from her cheek. "These drawings remind me of my childhood dreams," she said softly for the first time. Sophia's lips curved into a real smile. It was small, fragile, but it carried a light Keanu had never seen in her before. By the end of the night, the gallery owner approached Maria and Sophia. "If she keeps drawing," he said, "I would like to feature more of her work. She has something rare. She has a future here." Maria broke down in quiet sobs, covering her mouth with her hand. Sophia clutched her notebook tightly, her tears spilling. But this time they were not from pain, they were from hope. Keanu stood beside them, his heart full. He had not played a song or spoken a speech. He had only helped bring her light into the open, and that was enough. As they left the gallery, Sophia tugged at Keanu's sleeve. Her voice was small, but steady. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes kind. "You did this, Sophia. I only reminded you of what was already inside." They walked into the night together, the city lights glowing around them. Maria held her daughter's hand tightly, her face filled with gratitude. Sophia walked taller now, her notebook no longer hidden, but carried proudly against her chest. Keanu looked at them and whispered to himself, "This is the outcome I never expected, but it was the one that was meant to be, because sometimes the smallest dream hidden in silence can become the loudest voice when given a chance. And sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to walk away."